Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the No Beef Podcast. I'm your host, Bobby, aka BOBZ. Today we have another special guest. Please take it away and introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Parks and it's such an honour to be on this podcast today with Bobby. It's really great. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm a transformational parenting coach and you'll see from my logo up there, my business is How to Talk So Kids Will Listen UK. And so what I do is I blend together a unique blend of personal development, coaching and parenting skills to really help parents create the kind of home life they really want. So it's all about making life easier within the home for parents, making it calmer, all those battles, those day-to-day things you have to get your kids to do, like clean their teeth and go to bed and eat, a balanced diet and all those things, those transition moments that can be tricky, going from one thing to another, from inside to out, where even though they really want to go out, they're fighting you on it. You know they're going to have a good time when you get out into the park, but do they want to go? No, they want to stay in their pajamas all day. You know, all of these things that we have to deal with as parents. And of course, right now, we're all here at home. A lot of us are working from home. So a lot of us are still on top of each other quite a lot. We've had this 4 months, where things are opening up, but actually, so these emotions, the challenges, everything is heightened. Everything is like magnified. So I really help people to transform that environment so that it's calm, so that it's more respectful, so that everybody is feeling happier and you have tools to deal with these big emotions that come up. But the most exciting thing for me is not about the day-to-day stuff. It's actually about the legacy. It's actually about how we were parented. Being a parent is such a massive, I always say to people, it's like the biggest personal development program you will ever enroll in, and you didn't even know that you were enrolling in it. That's what you did when you had sex, right?
Yeah, true.
You enrolled in this personal development program that lasts for the rest of your life, and it's called parenting. And so you have this tiny little being born that you're responsible for, and it calls something from you. It calls forth you having to be a parent, you having to step up, you having responsibility for another human being, and that is massive. And
100%.
Obviously a lot of what we do with our children is very much influenced by how we were parented, how we were brought up, and whether it is that you had an amazing childhood and you're, I want to be just like my parents, or you're like, no way do I want to repeat those mistakes, no way do I want to repeat those patterns. It's time for that shit to end, because actually it stops with me, 100%. So you might be in very different places with your parenting, but wherever you are, we're very much influenced by what came before us. And what I'm really excited about is I run courses, I work with people one-to-one, and I'm just at the end of a course and about to be starting a new one, and just seeing people going from a place of struggle, of frustration, of things being difficult, to then moving 8 weeks later in a place where, like, I've got a lady who was like, her kids were constantly arguing, her son, massive anxiety, all this stuff going on, to a place of calm, and like she can't remember the last time they were arguing. It's just like massive transformation for people. But also for her, it's like breaking the cycle from how she was parented, and it's the same for me, and that's what I'm excited about. It's like the buck stops with me. I want my children to have a different life to what I had. And I think that really links into what we're talking about today with racism as well, that it links into wanting to make our world a better place, a place of equality, a place where everybody has freedom to be who they want to be, to be respected and loved as a human being within their family and within the community. So that's kind of,
Amen to that.
yeah, so
Um,
that's what I do. And so what, just to share my mission right now, I am really focused on, this kind of started coming to me in February, was this mission to really help families thrive. And I really focus on mums because I see mums as kind of the glue that holds the family together.
100%. I agree. Yeah.
So I focus on mums very much because often it's mums that have the bulk of the parenting responsibility, whether they want it or not. Often they're the ones that are holding the family together. They're the ones that are, what I say is like the glue that holds the family together, and 100%. Wanting to empower that role, because actually in our society it's not valued. Having that nurturing role. See, the way I see things is we've been stuck too much in a patriarchal system. We've been stuck too much in our masculine energy in terms of not only how we parent, but how our society is set up. So we've got this complete imbalance, because you need the masculine, absolutely, but you also need the feminine. You need balance. So I'm not saying we need to go completely matriarchal and the
balance,
completely feminine. It's about balance. And it's out of whack. Everything about our world right now is out of balance. We're stuck in this heavily male patriarchal way of the way our society is set up, the way people do everything, the way people parent, and it doesn't work. It's not working for anyone. It doesn't help men, doesn't help women, doesn't help children. It works for no one apart from an elite few people who want power and control.
Agreed. And I think what you just said there, and I hope people that are listening to that do listen to that, and I do hope they hit you up, because we have went through a very torrid time where we've been worked to our full capacity, emotionally, mentally, and physically. And you said something about that the moms are the glue that keeps the whole family household together, and I do agree with you, because I was brought up by my mom. She was a single mom, and she brought me and my two siblings up, and I see what she done for us, and I think, wow. I mean, don't remember, there's some things that I didn't agree with the way we were brought up, but she did keep us together and so on, and she did do a good job. Overall, I wouldn't agree with some of the things she did, but like you said, when we have children, we have that responsibility to raise them the way we fit best, and obviously in our culture, don't allow certain things follow on, and I'll just conclude on that, like, my parents never took me to the park. My parents didn't take me to swimming, I played football. That's all I done. Went to the park, played football. My parents didn't stand and watch me. My parents basically told me I had to be either a doctor or a lawyer. And what people don't understand, that like in our community, there's already strain and pressure put on you. So you need to do this. And I think some households, our parents want us to have the life that they never had, which is brilliant. But at the same time, we're not our parents.
Yeah.
We are growing up in a different time. Now with my son, Bobby Jr., I take him to the park. I run around, laugh, be stupid with him, just be a kid with him, because he's just a kid. Do you know what I mean? And I encourage, if he wants to kick a ball, kick a ball. If he wants to dance, he can dance. Whatever he wants to do. I saw what ways my parents brought me up, and mentally it did affect me. And I don't want that pressure on my son, because whatever he wants to be, I'm going to encourage him. That's the difference. I'm not going to cut down opportunities or sort off ideas. I'm just going to encourage him and make sure that he makes the right decisions, because my parents never made all the best decisions. I never have grown up. So I'm not going to expect him to be perfect. What I'm going to expect is for him to show a level of maturity and just be able to guide him. You know, he's going to make his mistakes. I'm just going to make sure that I'm going to be there to help him. You know, and
Yeah.
no, I totally agree with what you're saying. And that what she does, what Sarah does, guys. Please, if you can, hit her up. You know, there are people like Sarah, and I'm sure if you just give her a chat, she'll be able to help you. So please get in contact with her 100%.
Absolutely. I mean, I do, like tonight I've got a free masterclass, so I do those every now and then, and I run
Nice
courses
one.
and you know, I want to, so this mission I was talking about that started coming out was I realized I wanted to help as many families as I could.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this vision of helping 500 families this year.
Amazing.
And then when lockdown happened, I've been doing a lot of my courses and things in person. I developed more online ways of supporting people, basically.
Yeah.
So online courses. And so I changed that vision from 500 families, and I put a note on it. I thought, let's go big. Let's go for 5,000 families, because actually I ran a couple of courses, and through those 2 courses, I helped 500 families.
Amazing.
During lockdown, and I'm just like, yes, I've hit that one, boom, and it's not even halfway through the year. So let's extend that goal. Let's open it up. And so, you know, getting those foundations, the 5-day course that I did, and I'll be doing through the year that people can connect with as well, is really to give people some really foundational skills for being the kind of parent they want to be. So I really, my style of parenting, which is very different from my parents, I very much came from an attachment parenting style, like thinking about how things used to be a long time ago. So building up that strong bond. So I did things like I co-slept with my children.
Okay.
I breastfed my children to help give them the best nutritional start and the best bond. So I did long-term breastfeeding. So I did things like this to really help with that early years connection, which is so important.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I came very much from this attachment parenting approach. And so the parenting skills that I teach are about really parenting in a respectful way, where you think of your child as a human being rather than a child that you need to control.
Yeah.
And so you're respecting them as a person and doing what you were saying, Bobby. You're guiding them, you're leading them, you're guiding, you're being a parent, you're having these strong boundaries, right? Loving boundaries, but you're also working in collaboration with them to help them, guide them, support them. So I give parents really skills to be able to parent in that kind of way. So if that is appealing, then, you know, really do get in touch,
100%.
because it's a different way of thinking. And it's not new. This is the thing. This is the crazy thing, right? This stuff I'm teaching is not new. It's timeless. It's not new. However, it's still not the norm. And it's like, it's crazy. You know, these skills have been around like since the 70s, years and years and years. And yet there's a minority of people who are parenting in this way, you know, and still sticking with the old ways that don't work, you know, yes, we've come away from, you know, hitting our children. We've come away from, you know, punishing children by giving them a cane, which when I was school,
Or the belt.
got the cane or the belt or the ruler. I mean,
Yeah.
rubbish going on, you know.
Mm.
Really not. And all of that, like, you know, coming back to that patriarchal thing, all of that comes from, and, you know, in terms of racism as well, all of this comes from this way of viewing people as property. Yeah, whether that is women, you know, women have for hundreds, thousands of years until more recent history, been viewed as property of their fathers and their husbands.
Yeah.
And it's only quite recent. I mean, I'm only one generation away from that. When my mom was, before she got married, she needed permission from her mother to go to college, right? So people forget this. It's not that long ago. My mum needed
Yeah.
permission from her mother, who was not very supportive at all, to go to college. So if you didn't have permission of your parent, you couldn't do that. If you didn't have permission of your husband, you couldn't do certain things. Ridiculous. Because
It's an old
it's
slave
that,
mentality, isn't it? To be
yeah,
honest.
and it's that view of you being the property of,
Yeah.
which, oof, you know, it's just like, and that's our recent history. And so, you know, there was this mentality of viewing people, things as property, and that was by, you know, men, you know, and more specifically, you know, white males who obviously constructed, you know, our society in the UK, you know, comes from this history of conquering other places
Yeah.
and owning
Isn't it?
places, from this little island going out to own other places and treat everything there, whether it's things or people, as property to be used and utilized. And so that is, you know, that is the history, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you know, it has changed and it's come a long way, but as we know
100%.
right now, there's still a way to go
Oh,
in terms of
definitely.
equality, you know, whether that's based on your sex, you know, your gender, or the color of your skin. You know, there's still a way to go.
And that's one of the reasons why, one of the main reasons why I've invited you on today, because I want to talk about your
Aha.
experiences. Just for everyone watching, can you confirm your race and your heritage, please?
Okay. So I'm a gorgeous mix of Welsh, of Jamaican,
Okay.
and so I suppose I could say I'm Welsh Jamaican.
Yes. Yes. That's facts. Facts.
Yeah, facts. And my dad is mixed race, actually. So he's
Okay.
half Welsh and half Afro-American.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Good mix.
So,
Okay.
so a real mix.
Okay.
And, you know, I know my grandmother was part Spanish, you know, so on
Okay.
my mum's side. So, you know, there's a real mix. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Um, on that, your experience with racism. You know, I'm
Uh-huh.
not going to be naive
Uh-huh.
and say like you've had the best experience or you've not had the best experience.
Uh-huh.
Does one experience come to mind where it brought you trauma or a very mental disturbance where you thought, I actually just can't believe that just happened? Or have you witnessed anything, you know, of such? Because, you know, my podcast is about talking about racism, about
Uh-huh.
discrimination,
Uh-huh.
talking about equality and stuff like that. However, you know, like when someone comes on, we talk and stuff, but I was trying to make it a bit personal and say, you tell me how you felt, you know, because we can talk about racism and so on, but what deep rooted is how we felt, what trauma, because when it happens to me mentally, I go insane. I just think, are you serious? Did that just happen? You know? But we can't fight everyone, you know? You
Yeah.
can't be angry all the time, Sarah, you know? So I mean, talk to me, like tell me, is there a time or can you think of anything where you thought, oh my god, did that just really happen?
Do you know, there's not one big incident for me that
Okay.
comes to mind. So, you know, there's not a big traumatic event for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, it's that more insipid stuff that
Yeah.
you don't, that you brush off. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But that stacks and can accumulate and actually feeds into your whole view of yourself or your whole view of society, or do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
that
100%, 100%. You know, it's the cancel racism that keeps.
stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think that, you know, the big traumatic events, because I can't think of one. I don't really have a big traumatic event, actually.
Okay.
But I just have that insipid drip through life, you know. So I suppose the thing I think of is, I suppose when I kind of realized that how our society is set up, the construct
Yeah.
of our society, that was when I was 7, when I really got, oh, right, okay, so black is bad, white is good. It's everywhere. It's on your TV. It's everywhere, right? That's when I got a real sense of the whiter you are, the better it is for you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and how that's, you know, viewed in society. So these really strong images, like the Timotei advert, right? When I was a kid, there was this Timotei advert with this blonde lady with blue eyes washing her hair in a waterfall, you know. And that was the image of beauty.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's what is beautiful. So the further you are from that image, and there weren't images of, you know, black women on TV particularly, you know, or very few. So, you know, what I realized was, and what my mum always talked about, was how you've got to work harder. You've got to
Yep.
work hard to get anything, to do anything, to achieve anything. You're going to have to work harder than everybody else.
Yep. Yep. I got the same.
You know, and I think that's what's drilled into children of
Especially black children.
race, of black
Children.
children, or of color, really. I think
Yeah.
because I think Asian families have the same thing. You've got to work hard, and that's where this thing, you've got to become a doctor or a lawyer or something like that comes
Yeah.
from. You know, like you've got to achieve something that has status in our world,
Yeah.
and you've got to work hard. Do you know what I mean? And life is going to be harder for you. There's no two ways about it. You know,
which is true, isn't it?
Yeah, which I, you know, and I realized, oh, right, so I'm black and I'm a woman, so it's going to be hard. You know, I'm going to have to, you know, it's going to be unfair. And I could see all around me. I was the only black child in my school, in my primary school. So I was, and there was a girl from the Chinese restaurant in the school as well. That was it. That was the ethnic diversity, in our school. So I was definitely unique. But I would have, you know, things like, you know, my friends would, you know, if they said something racist, they'd say, well, I don't mean you, because you're different. You're not them. And it's like, okay, but, you know, I kind of am, aren't I? I kind of am, aren't I? Or, you know, and they'd say things like, yeah, you know, you're not black. You're more like a coffee kind of color, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so what does that mean?
It's like,
what's the difference?
Yeah, it's like they're white. They're like, what's the? Is it not gaslighting? It's like they're diluting your blackness.
Yeah.
Because you're not as dark or as brown as the next person.
Yeah.
That we're black. Do you know what I mean? Black. We all come under. Everyone has a different skin tone. It doesn't matter if you're mixed race, light skinned, brown, black, or blick, as I say. That makes you really, really dark. Okay, that means really dark. We're all black because I tell you what, if we commit the crime and the witness was told what was the person, they'd happily be like, they were black.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So I think, you know, like let's and I get that, and it's. I mean,
I want to share with you another. So it's just a little thing, and the thing is, I grew up in mid Wales in a rural area, so like everybody knew everyone, really, you know.
Got you.
So it was that kind of community, where you knew, you know, the people around you, and I think personally, I didn't experience a lot of racism, but my mum did. You know, my mum's a lot darker than I am.
Yeah.
And I know that she experienced a lot of racism, and I know was quite angry, you know, and feisty. You know, she was a strong Black woman. She is a strong Black woman. So she had a lot to deal with, and I've got an older sister as well. So I kind of feel a bit like I was protected a lot, I think, and things were diluted for me. I mean, I would find it, by the time I got to secondary school, I would find it weird if I got, you know, some racist comments. I'd be like,
you kept in a
what,
bubble,
are you
basically.
serious? You know, because it didn't happen that much. I remember this kid from a farm calling me a nigger, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh no, he didn't call me nigger. No, he didn't call me nigger. He called me a packy. He called me a packy. And I was like, I actually just laughed at him. I was like, it's not even the right, you know.
Yeah, derogative term. Yeah.
No, you're wrong. You know, it's just like, go away. You know, you can't even get it right. You know,
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, I was just like, you know, I found it laughable, and you know, it didn't. I just found it ridiculous, to be honest. So it didn't kind of particularly bother me, but I know my sister she was older, so she had problems. So she kind of paved the way for me. And I remember she had this fight in school, and she smacked this lad that was picking on her. She decked him, basically, right?
Yeah, okay.
And then his dad came round to our house. My mum answered the door, giving it, your son this, your son that, rah, 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 rah.
Uh-huh. And
my mum's like, I don't have a son. I have a daughter. And he's like, oh, right. So then he went and gave his son hell for being
beat up by
a girl, right? But it was just like this whole thing. But I think after that so that was probably an incident, a fairly big incident in a small school. Everybody knew what happened. Nobody touched my sister. Nobody gave her abuse. Do you know what I mean?
Which meant that you probably wouldn't. Being
and so,
a little sister, you probably would have been okay as well.
So I kind of came up through that, whereas I know my cousins, for instance, they grew up in Sheffield. They had gangs waiting to beat them up, you know? Yeah. They had gangs of lads waiting to beat the shit out of them.
Sheffield is very...
from school.
Yeah, Sheffield there's a big split in Sheffield. I mean, even till this day, you know, with the black, the Asians, and the white, and especially those days, you know, I can only just feel sorry for them, because I can imagine where everywhere they turn, there was always a fight or an argument or a conflict, of engagement of conflict, and you know, like, that's what makes me really, really sad, Sarah, because it's like, well, it's not like, it's a fact that wherever we go, you can say back in the day, or even to this day, we are not liked because we're black. Right? I'll say that again. We're not liked because we're black. You don't know me, okay? But because I have black skin, automatically don't like me. And for me, that's what I want. I want to change that mindset. And, you know, it's not going to happen overnight. I get that. I want to change that mindset, and I want to change to the individuals and the people that think like that, and ask them, do you even know why you don't like black people? Do you know what I mean? Like, I'll give you an example, okay? I said earlier, I take my son to the park, okay? My mom and dad never took me to the park. Now, because I never went to the park, you'd think my son's not going to go to the park because I didn't go. And then that's my point, is that, like, because we're taught and we see something in our household, it becomes normality, okay? And growing up, my mum was against so many things, not because it was wrong, it's because she didn't like it. You get what I'm trying to say? So because these people's parents and their household didn't like us, they started not liking us. So when we do go in the street, when you see these people that are our age and, like, not liking us, giving us their looks, I really want to say to them, do you even know why you don't like black people? Like, I would know, because what can they actually say? We're what? Criminals? We're troublemakers? Please. I mean, we talk about racism, but I always say to people, we never started this problem. You did. So, so how can you not like us? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
we're talking about like the different communities and so on. Okay. Um, in your position now, okay, what do you think is going to happen in the future regarding change and racism? Because me personally, I've said it countless times and I will keep saying it, I want there to be a different mindset. I want all communities to be accepted and respected and be treated equally. Okay. But you as a black woman, okay, now, you know, I'll never understand um, how it is to be a woman, okay, but I can understand your struggles. Because women, it was only, remember, let's not, I mean, it was only what was it, 60s or 70s that like women actually started being properly acknowledged. There's some places in some management places and institutions where there's no women, no female representation,
Yeah.
as well as no black representation. So you know what I mean? Like you said, you're black and you're female. Now, that's fucking hard, okay? That's really, really hard. And I emphasize what I just said there, guys, because if you are black, you already have a problem, okay? The problem is that people think you are a problem. If you're female and you're black, the scrutiny is on a higher level. And what I'm saying, asking basically is you're like, you are a black female, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think there will be change? Do you think women's rights are going to be properly acknowledged to be equally? Because let's get it right. There are some places that do treat women very equally. I get that. We still have this disgruntled, ignorant people, unfortunately. But you know, there's a double whammy here. You're black and you're female. So talk to me. What do you think?
So I don't know how quickly. I think it's about a case of speed, and my hope is that, you know, through things like the shifts that are happening right now in people's perception, I think there's been a bit of a, I'm hoping there will be a leap rather than just this slow creeping forward that has been happening for the last 30 years, you know, 30, 40 years. There's been this slow improvement over time that's been happening. And I think my hope is that there's a quantum leap right now through this movement, you know, through what's happening at the moment, that catapults things forward in terms of, you know, equality for women and, you know, and for all races as well. So it's, that's my hope. Whether that will happen, I don't know. I think it is happening to a certain degree. We can't go back, right? And we are going forward. And there has been this uprising of people taking a stand and saying no more. And I think from my point of view, when we were talking about some of the things we might chat about today, and, you know, you mentioned about, well, what can we do about it, you know?
Yeah.
And so for me, the way I've always done things is about being a role model, you know? So it's about that with parenting, and it's about that within society. It's being a positive role model to, so that, you know, people get exposed to you as different. So like, I've worked in corporate settings. I will be the only black woman with dreads in a corporate setting. Do you know what I mean? I'm a black woman with dreads as well, you know, with natural hair as well.
Yeah.
You know.
Which is quite tough for some females, natural hair.
Well, it's interesting, you know, and it's something that, a choice that I made a long time ago. I've had natural hair most of my life, and but that's a whole other story. That's a whole other conversation, actually. But it's, you know, things like that I feel are important, actually, you know, that You know, people think I'm a Rasta. I'm not. You know, I just like having natural hair, right? So some people might think I'm a Rasta. I'm not. But I've worked in corporate settings, in universities, in, you know, with consultants, medical consultants and registrars and things like that. So
Yeah.
within the NHS and training around communication. So the work that I do and have been doing for years is all around communication, right? You know, with the parenting skills, but also before that within corporate settings as well. My background, I didn't mention, is as a professional actor. So that's what I did. That's
I'm coming to that. Don't worry. I'm coming to that.
So I went into that. So communication, that's all about communication as well. So so for me, it's about being a role model. It's about being a positive role model, and for me it's about staying in my lane. You know, there are incredible people. I haven't talked much about race actually since all of this uprising's been happening. I've been really focused on my parenting stuff that I'm doing. I've been really focused on that, and my real passion is actually women. My real passion is about rights for women, and of course race comes into that. It's part of that. And I was like, well, how much do I talk about race? And actually, it's not at the forefront of what I do, but I am an example just by who I am being, just by who I am, okay? And for me, there's, you know, a thing to look at, okay, well, how can I also encourage people from minority communities to engage with the work that I do?
Yes.
Is actually, I look at the demographic of who actually is doing this work and who comes to me. It's mostly white women, actually. You know, I don't have a lot of people from the Black community or the Asian community, or, you know, or different communities engaging in this. And actually, this is so powerful, the work that I'm doing for, you know, creating that legacy and that future for your family and healing the past. And who needs to heal the past? You know, we all do. But, you know, we have, you know, I'm an ancestor of slavery. You know, my ancestors were slaves. They were taken from their homes and forced to, you know, be slaves. So, and that history has a knock-on effect throughout our community and throughout our parenting, actually, because this really authoritative parenting that's heavy on punishment, where does that come from? It comes from not being parented, and in history being treated as an object.
I mean,
so there's you know, so, you know, our parents can only do the best that they could do, and they did the best they can do. And what I see is every generation is improving. Every generation gets better with those who are conscious, with those who choose to actually
acknowledge
parent in a more conscious way and heal that history. And so what's come up in terms of my mission is helping to create a legacy of feminine social change. That is my mission. You know, it's helping families, but to create this legacy of feminine social change. So we're restoring the balance. We're restoring the balance between masculine and feminine, and honoring the role of parent as nurturers, as, you know, and what's exciting for me about this pandemic is that when this virus rose up, you know, the value on money, the value on power, okay, it's still there, because let's face it, look at him in power in our country and in America, and oh my goodness.
I know. It's a nightmare.
And we have a minority of women in power, and when you look at the men in power and the job that they're doing with this pandemic, and the women in power, you know, the leader of New Zealand is phenomenal. And look at the results in terms of what has happened with protecting that community in New Zealand. It's like they don't have the virus anymore, you know.
You can't argue facts with opinions. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a fact.
It's fact. It's fact.
You know, So I think having women in these positions, I think creates more balance, but also will help to create a more balanced society, you know. So it's, and the value placed, because actually what do you need? You need people to be cared for. You know, when this virus is rampage, you need people to be cared for. That becomes really important. You need people to stock the shelves. You need people to clean the environments to get rid of this virus, you know, and suddenly people saw the value in these jobs.
Yeah.
About caring, that about nurturing, that about that everything, that the foundations of our society that are held together that haven't been valued. Suddenly people saw, oh my gosh, the bin men are really important, actually. Yeah. Oh my goodness, the people who clean the hospital are really important, you know, on an importance level as the surgeons, as the doctors. Do you know what I mean? It's because you need that, you need it clean,
There was
to stop spreading the virus, you know?
The mentality and the acknowledgement of that, you know, people that work in supermarkets, people that clean, nurses, the NHS, I think shows how much the people in power take them for granted.
Absolutely. You know?
And it's funny because I don't want to get too political, but you know, the same people that are in power at the moment are the same people that want to get rid of the NHS. You know, as you sip your tea.
And are still selling it off. Let's and have been under the radar for years, actually.
Yeah. So,
you know?
So and you know, and like it's I mean, COVID has brought so many negative things, but also has brought some positives, I think. And
absolutely.
Go. Bear with me one moment. Okay. So my last question. Well, it is a question as well as your view. So obviously, the people that are watching, obviously, that you were an actress, and could you tell us who you were acting for?
Yeah, sure. So, so I started off my career in theatre. So I I specialised in theatre for young people. I did a lot of touring theatres, creating new pieces of work, new plays and things, and touring them around schools. So really getting theatre out into the community, which I absolutely loved. And through that, got to play some incredible roles, like I played Hatshepsut. Have you heard of Hatshepsut?
No, I haven't, but I'll Google it.
Google Hatshepsut. She was the most successful pharaoh.
Oh, okay.
Egypt. But you haven't heard of her. Guess why? Okay. She was a woman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they tried to erase her from history. You know, her statues were destroyed. Her temple was destroyed, damaged, and they tried to erase her from history, basically. She reigned for a long time and was very successful and a great pharaoh.
Okay.
So, and so I was in a show called The Queen Who Would Be King. So she became king.
Okay.
And reigned for a long time, and she wore like a beard, like a fake beard, and dressed as a man as well. So I played this incredible role, this powerful woman, Hatshepsut.
Amazing.
And you know, it was about bringing stories into the community and into schools. And actually, one of the things that I think we can do is to have those stories of women, those stories of history that aren't told, you know, brought forth. I was also part of a show where we did like a storytelling show for quite young kids around the Midlands that was all about the story of Nanny Town. Do you know her?
Yeah, I've heard of that.
So she freed the slaves. She led the slaves up into the mountains, into the Blue Mountains. So when I think about, you know, the work I used to do with theatre, I think what would be really exciting if I was still in that work would be to tell those forgotten stories. You know, I think doing theatre and bringing it into schools of these forgotten stories of history, I think would be really exciting way of children learning about, you know, about history, the side of history that isn't told. You know, I think that would be a really powerful way of doing that.
And there's another role you used to do.
Yes.
And what was that role? Can you please bring some light to that?
Yeah, sure. So I worked in theatre for a long time, and then I went into TV. So I, you know, was in programs like Coronation Street and Doctors and Buddies and all these kind of medical programs and stuff like that, and various roles. But I was in a CBeebies program called Razzle Dazzle. So if you Google it, then you'll see me with very short dreads because it was a while ago. And that was all about sound, about communication, which is interesting because the lady who wrote that, Sue Palmer, she's really at the forefront in Edinburgh of the whole upstart movement, which is about starting the more formal part of schooling later to like age 7, more in line with like Scandinavian countries and things. And she wrote the program, so it's really interesting. Yeah, she's in Edinburgh as well.
My question onto that, okay, of how the TV and the acting scene was, because I assume that you were probably the only black person there, only black female there, amongst your cast and roster, I'm assuming.
No, actually.
Oh, really? Okay. Because where I'm trying to go with it is that when you look on the TV now, mixed race, and you have different communities being represented in adverts now. So
absolutely.
What I'm trying to go, so
definitely.
I won't say assume, okay. When we watch TV, before we'd see the white families, the adverts, the dogs, and so on and so on. Like you were saying, blonde hair, blue eyes, you know, this was accepted. But if you fast forward it all these years, all these decades, you see a white woman and a black dad, a white mom, black dad, mixed race kid. You see an Asian, you see the Jamaican, or you see a mix, diversity. Now, that also illustrates that there has been a change, you know?
There has for sure been a change. And, you know, when I did that program, which was over 10 years ago now, I think the BBC have always been quite good at or certainly then they were, and obviously they're mindful of that. They've always kind of done a mix of people. So when I was doing that program, they had a black guy who was a presenter around that time, started not around that same time.
Okay.
And then he was there for a long time, and then he finished. I'm just trying to remember his name now. Anyway, and there was Poi. I don't know if you probably don't remember Chris and Poi. They are in a lot of the pantomimes, the CBeebies pantomimes and stuff. Okay. So Poi was in. She was actually one of the Teletubbies.
Oh, wow.
And she's been in CBeebies for years and years. So she did a program called Let's Play. I can't remember now the name of the program. My daughter watched it and really enjoyed it. And she's in a lot of the pantomimes. So you'll see her in the pantomimes. And she's had kids and stuff, and goes in things. So she's still around. But I remember at one point, it's a while ago now, my daughter was watching a program called High Five. It was Australia. It was in Australia first, and then it was here. Okay. And my daughter quite enjoyed it. And there was a woman on there, and I remember there was a time when the presenters were changing, and I was thinking, do you know who would be really great as a new presenter would be the woman out of that, and she is now one of the presenters.
Wow, amazing!
And that's who they got in. So it was so funny that I had that. I thought that, you know.
Makes sense.
That's who they got. She's mixed race. So but they're quite good at having a balance, at having a good representation. So when I was there, there was a presenter who was a mixed race woman, that I did a day's presenting with. So I
Yeah.
did a day's presenting of all the slots. So it was me and her doing all the
Okay. Yeah.
slots through the day. Yeah. So we did that together. And then she finished not long after that. But yeah, so I think the BBC are really good. And actually the program I was in, they had a real mixture of children. They always have a kind of mixture of representation in the children that they have.
Yeah.
So I think the BBC are really good at doing that. And I mean, they were even 10 years ago, but I think they've gotten better as well at having a real mix. So I think they're really mindful. And I think that's important because a lot of children spend a lot of time, particularly at the moment, probably while
Yeah.
parents are trying to work from home and, you know, they've been off school and what have you, watching things like CBeebies or Milkshake or things like that, you know,
Yeah.
where it becomes the babysitter, you know, while parents are trying to get stuff done, you know. And I think having the representation of different races is great, and also having that, you know, they very much have an eye on education as well with the programming, which I think they do a really good job. I mean, I'm not a fan of a massive amount of screen time for kids, but you know, there's certainly an order for me in terms of what type of programs I
Yeah.
think are better for our children to watch than others, you know, more useful, more educational, and
Mm-hmm.
have this representation of diversity, or have these themes of you know, strong female characters, or you know, these different messages that
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
have that support their thinking around society, you know. So I think that's important to bear in mind when you're thinking of what your children are digesting and what you're digesting, actually.
100%. 100%.
You know, I you might think from watching this that I'm quite political. I'm not at all. And but I am I think of myself as an intelligent woman, so I see what's happening, even though I don't watch the news.
Yeah.
I've done this for years. I purposely don't ingest a lot of. I'm very protective of what is coming in,
Predicted. Yeah. Predicted.
of what I am ingesting, whether that's food wise, but also in terms of media. And
100%. I totally get that. I totally get that. Sarah,
yeah,
thank you so much for coming on. Seriously, I really appreciate that. Also appreciate your time because I know you're very busy, especially at these times as well. So
absolutely.
thank you for coming on. It was amazing and very educational listening to you. Seriously, no, I genuinely mean that. Like I said to you off air, you know, I was so interested and engaged in what you do, and like I'd love to just hear your experiences and your views. So thank you so much for that. Guys, it's safe to say there's no beef between me and Sarah. Okay, so please
Can
carry
I
on.
just can I just let people know how they can get in contact with me as
Yes,
well?
100%. Go for it. Yeah, use the
Yeah,
platform.
if people want to connect with me, yeah, I'm on Facebook quite a lot. So I've got a Facebook page called How to Talk So Kids Will Listen UK. So that's quite a good place to connect with what I'm doing if you're wanting support, or you're wanting to find out a bit more about what I offer in terms of supporting you and your family. So
Perfect. There you have it,
all
guys.
right.
Seriously. We've got to embrace each other, embrace the community, embrace our women as well. Sarah, as I said, there's no beef between us. Guys, listen, learn, and share. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bobby.
See you.